There's a video on the internet with millions of views. It's not dramatic. There's no music. It's just a door and a dog. The dog walks over to the door and lies down, puts its head on its paws, and wait. The owner set up the camera before leaving for work. 8 hours of footage. The dog got up twice to drink water, then went right back to the door. Didn't play with its toys, didn't look out the window, just wait. When the owner watched the footage, they cried. But here's the uncomfortable question that the video doesn't answer. Was that dog missing its owner? Or was it just running a very simple program? Owner gone, waited door, owner returns? What does missing someone actually mean? And are we sure animals can do it? Let's start with what we can measure. When you leave your dog, their body does something specific. Cortisol levels rise, heart rate increases, some dogs stop eating, others pace, some destroy furniture, some shut down completely. Let's call it separation distress. Most owners call it guilt. In 2011, a research team led by Therese Wren at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences wanted to find out what actually happens inside a dog when its owner leaves. They measured cortisol in dogs left alone for different lengths of time. The dogs who were left for longer periods showed significantly higher cortisol when reunited with their owners. They greeted them more intensely, more frantically, and their stress hormones stayed elevated longer even after the owner came back. The dog wasn't just bored. Something physiological was happening. Their body was reacting as if something important had been removed from the environment, something they needed. But here's where it gets complicated. A cortisol spike isn't the same as missing someone. When you're hungry, your cortisol goes up. When you're cold, your cortisol goes up. The question isn't whether dogs notice their owner is gone. They clearly do. The question is whether that noticing is accompanied by anything that feels like the ache you feel when someone you love is far away. The attachment bond. To understand whether animals miss us, we first have to understand why they stay close to us at all. In the 1950s, a psychologist named John Bowlby developed something called attachment theory. He was studying human infants and he noticed something profound. Babies don't just bond with their mothers because they're a food source. They bond because the presence of the caregiver itself is the reward, safety, comfort, the feeling of being close to someone who makes the world less terrifying. This wasn't supposed to apply to animals, but then researchers started looking. In 2013, a team at the University of Veterinary Medicine in Vienna ran an experiment called the Strange Situation Test on dogs. The same test is used on human infants. The owner leaves, stranger enters, the owner returns. The dog's reactions were almost identical to what Bowlby described in children. When the owner was present, the dogs explored, played, and engaged with the world. When the owner left, exploration stopped. When the owner returned, the dogs greeted them with relief, not just excitement. Proximity seeking, staying close, the secure base effect. The dogs weren't just attached to the food, they were attached to the person, the specific person. And that attachment was emotionally organized in almost exactly the same way human attachment is. There's a word researchers use for this. Separation anxiety isn't a disorder. It's a sign that the bond is real. A dog who doesn't care when you leave isn't well adjusted. It may not have formed an attachment at all. But attachment is one thing, and memory is another. The memory problem. Missing someone requires something specific. A mental representation of the person when they're not there. Object permanence. The understanding that something continues to exist even when you can't see it. Human babies develop this around 8 months old. Before that, when you leave the room, you stop existing. There's no missing you because there's no you to miss. Dogs develop object permanence much faster. Puppies as young as 8 weeks can track objects that disappear from view. They know you still exist when you walk out the door. That's not the question. The question is how long that mental representation lasts, and what it feels like. In 2016, researchers at Emory University wanted to understand how dogs perceive time, not whether they can count minutes. That's the wrong frame. They wanted to know if dogs can hold a memory of a person across extended periods. So they trained dogs to lie still in an fMRI scanner and expose them to scents. Their own scent, a strange dog's scent, a strange human's scent, and their owner's scent. The owner's scent activated a very specific part of the brain, the caudate nucleus, which in humans is associated with anticipation, reward, and the feeling of being about to see someone you love. It's the part of your brain that lights up when you see your partner's name pop up on your phone. It's not just recognition, it's an emotional expectation. The dogs weren't just identifying their owner's smell, they were anticipating something good. Here's what that means. When you leave, the dog doesn't just notice the absence. A part of their brain is holding your scent as a promise, a mental bookmark, return not yet fulfilled. Now, is that the same as missing you? We're getting closer, but there's one more piece, and it's the one that's hardest to study and hardest to accept. The evidence we don't want to see. In 2012, a dog named Capitán made international news. His owner died in 2006. Capitán ran away from the family home shortly after. No one could find him. A week later, they went to visit the grave. Capitán was lying on it. He had found the cemetery on his own. Across a town he'd never navigated. He stayed there for 6 years until his own death, Capitán guarded that grave. The staff fed him. He left occasionally, but he always came back. He died in the same spot, still waiting. You can explain this away. Centrales, routine. A dog who found a quiet place and stayed. But then there's Hachiko, a dog in Japan who, every single day for nearly 10 years after his owner died, went to the train station at the exact time the owner's train used to arrive. He waited. He watched every passenger get off, and then he went home. He did this until he died. There's a statue of him at that station now, not because he was a good dog, because he did something that looked devastatingly like grief that wouldn't end. In 2014, researchers at the University of Milan published a study on grief in dogs. They surveyed over 400 owners of multiple dogs. When one dog died, the surviving dog showed statistically significant behavioral changes. They ate less. They slept more. They sought more human attention. They vocalized more or less. They became fearful. They became clingy. The closer the bond between the dogs, the more severe the symptoms. The duration of the grief behaviors had no fixed endpoint. Some dogs showed symptoms for months, some for over a year. The researchers were careful with their language. They didn't say dogs grieve. They said dogs exhibit behaviors consistent with what humans describe as grief. But at some point, that distinction starts to feel less like scientific rigor and more like avoidance. So do animals actually miss you when you're gone? The cortisol says your absence registers in their body. The attachment studies say they have formed a bond that is emotionally real. The fMRI scans say their brain lights up with anticipation at the scent of you. The graveside vigils say they can hold a memory across years. And the grief studies say that when someone they love disappears forever, something in them breaks in ways that are measurable, observable, and lasting. None of that proves they miss you in the way you miss them. The inner experience remains locked behind eyes we can't see through. The hard problem of consciousness again. We can measure the outside. We can't measure what it feels like. But here's what I keep coming back to. If it looks like it is missing, if it measures like missing, if it breaks them when you don't come back, then maybe the question isn't whether animals miss us. Maybe the question is why we're so desperate for proof that they don't. Because if a dog can wait at a train station for a decade for someone who's never coming back, that's not a simple behavior. That's a wound in time, a memory that refused to heal. A love that outlasted the person it belonged to. Maybe we don't doubt that animals miss us because the evidence is weak. Maybe we doubt it because accepting it would mean accepting something harder. Every time we walk out the door, there's an animal on the other side counting the minutes, holding our scent in their brain like a promise we might not keep. The video with the dog at the door. 8 hours, 2 water breaks, didn't play, didn't explore, just wait. The owner cried when they watched it, and maybe those tears were the right response. Not because the owner felt guilty for leaving, but because they understood, finally, that leaving had a cost they had never fully accounted for. A cost measured in cortisol and quiet pacing and the slow accumulation of empty hours spent staring at a door that might open or might not. The dog doesn't know you're coming back. It just believes you are. That's not missing you? Then I don't know what it is.